As you already know, every season of American Horror Story is connected in one over-the-top, batshit crazy universe.
But it could get complicated, very complicated.
To help you better understand how it all fits together, we're gonna use Tempus Infinitum.
Close your eyes, take a deep breath, let my voice guide you.
Okay, we're not actually going back in time, we're just editing a bunch of clips together.
Can we at least pretend?
Fine.
Thank you. All right, Greg, it's time for you to jump in that tub back there.
I'm not doing that.
It's right behind you. Go jump in.
It's not. No, it's not.
Let's go back in time and pinpoint the most important moments in the history of American Horror Story.
Make sure to stick around for the entire video because time travel isn't easy and it took us a really long time to make this. If you enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe. We have even more AHS coming your way.
We start off in the 14th century. A British stowaway named Scathach travels across the Atlantic Ocean. She's sentenced to burn at the stake because the soldiers believe she's a witch. Before they can do that, she pledges herself to the old gods, and ta-da! She's given the power of immortality and actually becomes the first supreme. Then she massacres all those soldiers. By 1587, John White and the Roanoke colony settle in what is present-day North Carolina. John's wife Thomasin becomes leader of the group after John leaves in search of supplies. The colony overthrows Thomasin and banishes her, leaving her starving in the forest with a skull's bridle on her face. Luckily, she is saved by Scathach. Thomasin returns to the colony and gets sweet revenge on all of them. She also forces them to join her in some dark magic rituals which involved human sacrifice. Unsurprisingly, the colony pushes back a little bit, so she decides to just slaughter them all. She becomes known as the Butcher, and her Roanoke colony is forever attached to the land thanks to Scathach's curse. On every blood moon in October, they can actually interact with the physical world.
The Native American Croatoan tribe in the region weren't the biggest fans of the spirits haunting them. According to Billy Dean Howard, they banished the spirits after burning their belongings and chanting Croatoan.
Fast forward a century later, and the Salem witch trials begin to heat up. Sorry about that.
In order to save the Coven, Supreme Prudence Mather sacrificed herself so that the new Supreme could rise and lead the witches safely to New Orleans.
In 1775, one of the most vile characters in AHS history is born, Madame Delphine Lalaurie. By 1790, Miss Robichaud's Academy for Exceptional Young Ladies opens up in the Big Easy. A couple years later, in North Carolina, Edward Philippe Mott, yes, the ancestor of Dandy Mott, builds the Big Shaker Mansion. It's a beautiful two-story farmhouse settled on 10 acres in Roanoke. Pretty nice place, huh? It's beautiful out here.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Unfortunately for Edwards, he is sacrificed to the old gods.
On September 10, 1801, Marie Laveau was born in New Orleans. She would become a voodoo queen and a significant player in the rivalry with the neighboring witches. In the 1830s, Delphine tortures a bunch of slaves and drains their blood because she thought it would cure her aging.
On Halloween night of 1833, the sadistic Delphine overhears her daughter's plans to murder her. She decides to teach them all a lesson and hold them as prisoners in her torture chamber for a year. What a mom. The following year, Marie Laveau makes a deal with Papa Legba, giving up her firstborn son in exchange for immortality. Meanwhile, Delphine catches her daughter Pauline trying to sleep with one of her servants, Bastien. But instead of punishing Pauline, Delphine tortures Bastien and turns him into a minotaur. This ultimately would kill him. Delphine didn't know this, but Bastien was the Voodoo Queen's lover and baby daddy. So Laveau curses her with immortality, while the rest of her family is hung outside their house. Laveau then buries Delphine alive.
Sealed up in your unmarked grave for all eternity, listening to the world go on around you, even until that world is no more.
During the Civil War, one of the key objectives was control of the Mississippi River and thus New Orleans. Miss Robichaud's Academy was pulled into the conflict as it was used as a military hospital during the time. Following the war, the newest Supreme, Mary Ann Wharton, buys the Academy and establishes the property as a safe haven for young witches around the world.
Fast forward to the 1890s. Serial killer Kincaid Polk, who grew up in the haunted Roanoke, North Carolina, is eaten alive by his own pigs, thus creating the legend of the Piggy Man. How about some notable birthdays around this time? First, on May 6, 1895, Rodolfo Valentino is born in Italy. He would one day become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. And later that fall, the infamous serial killer James Patrick March was born on October 30th. During this time, Edward Mordrake was born into a wealthy family in England. More importantly, he was born with two faces. One of the faces would ultimately drive him crazy and send the serial killer into the freak show circuit.
Following the turn of the century, Wendell or Del Toledo is born. The future strongman hailed from the famed Toledo Lobster Claw clan. But Del, unlike some of the others in the family, didn't inherit the genetic deformity.
Yet another birthday to celebrate, Elizabeth Johnson is born a year later. She would eventually become known as the Countess and owner of Hotel Cortez. In 1910, the infamous Briarcliff Manor is built, and it becomes one of the largest tuberculosis wards in the United States. It's estimated that almost 50,000 patients died here during this time. In 1912, Rita Gayheart is born. She's Pepper's older sister. And 6 years later, one of our favorite characters in the entire series, Pepper, is born.
In July of the same year, Anastasia Romanoff attempts to use the spell to protect her family from execution. Yes, in the AHS universe, she was a witch. Unfortunately, she's not strong enough to stop the Bolsheviks. Mallory time traveled to this moment too, but we'll touch on that later.
In 1919, the New Orleans serial killer and avid fan of jazz music, the Axeman, is killed by the Coven Witches, thus trapping his soul in the academy. In 1922, the infamous surgeon to the stars, Charles Montgomery, builds an absolute murder house, for him and his wife Nora. Dr. Montgomery would soon become addicted to his own drugs, experiment on dead animals, and perform a whole bunch of illegal abortions. And just a couple years later, Hollywood hopeful Elizabeth Short was born in Boston. On Halloween of 1925, Gordon Northcott abducted and murdered Albert Evers, amongst others, which would become known as the Wineville Chicken Coop murders. That same year, construction started on Hotel Cortez. James Patrick March funded the entire thing and killed many laborers during its construction.
Elizabeth Johnson works as an extra on The Son of the Sheik, and over the course of the summer forms an intimate relationship with her co-star Rudolph Valentino and his wife Natasha. In 1926, German director F.W. Murnau looks for inspiration in his film Nosferatu, but ends up getting turned into a vampire. He then turns Valentino, who kills his stunt double and fakes his own death.
By August of 1926, construction of Hotel Cortez is finally wrapped up. This coincides with news of Valentino's publicized death. Believing her husband to be dead, Elizabeth marries James for his money. It turns out that Elizabeth isn't totally turned off to the mass murders. She even motivates March to kill the wealthy guests of Hotel Cortez.
Oh, they make such a great couple.
Elizabeth soon learns that Valentino and Natasha are alive and actually vampires. They quickly turn her, but March tricks her into thinking that they abandon her. She then becomes known as the Countess and has a child with March. The vampire baby Bartholomew is born and kills a nurse. Like father, like son.
In 1926, a patient's boyfriend kidnaps the Montgomerys' baby Thaddeus and cuts him up into pieces. The cops bring his body parts back to the Montgomerys, where Charles starts putting him back together. He's resurrected as the infantata who craves blood.
That thing upstairs, it's not human. I tried to kill it.
No. I tried. I stabbed it with a letter opener, but it clung to life, Charlie.
No. I finally succeeded at something.
We'll alert the media at once.
Nora then kills her husband for this and commits suicide.
Later that year, James March starts the 10 Commandments killings. At the same time, Brookfield Heights, the setting of the 7th season of Cult, is established in Michigan. A couple years later, Jimmy Darling is born. Unlike his father, Jimmy is born with lobster hands. It was a live freak birth where people actually paid money to watch. In 1929, James March kills himself after taking the life of his faithful follower, Hazel Evers. Another birthday in 1931. Future journalist, author, Briarcliff, and bloody-faced survivor Lana Winters is born. Over in Germany, Elsa Mars is tricked into a snuff film shoot. She's drugged and gets her legs amputated by the infamous Nazi doctor Hans Gruber. She's rescued by Massimo Dolcefino, who makes her some wooden prosthetics.
4 years later, Elsa leaves Germany for the United States. She adopts Pepper and begins befriending others that would star in her freak show. In 1938, Ethel Darling, aka the Bearded Woman, and her son Jimmy join Elsa's cabinet of curiosities.
2 years later, another one of our favorites, Kit Walker, is born. 1941, Kansas City, Stanley comes across Maggie, who was an orphan and turned to pickpocketing as a means to survive. Eventually, the pair would make their way down to Jupiter, Florida. Speaking of Florida, Twisty the Clown returned to Jupiter after fleeing from Rusty Westchester's traveling carnival.
Stop. You told me there wouldn't be any clowns in this video.
I'm sorry, Greg. I'm really sorry.
He tried to turn his life around and started making toys for children. This turned out to be a failure, and on top of it, his mother died. He attempted suicide, but that also failed, leaving his face brutally deformed.
In 1947, Elizabeth Short is drugged, raped, and killed by her dentist, Dr. Curran. The ghost of Charles Montgomery steps in to help with the body, but actually makes it much worse. He bisects Elizabeth at the waist and carves a Glasgow smile on her face. She forever becomes known as the Black Dahlia.
In the summer of 1949, Judy Martin seemingly kills Missy Stone in a drunk driving accident. Judy then joins the Catholic Church and renounces alcohol for good. In the fall of the following year, Fiona Good is born in Louisiana. 1952, Bet and Dot Tatler join Elsa's Cabinet of Curiosities after Bet killed their abusive mother. Meanwhile, Twisty kidnaps and kills a whole bunch of people. Del and Desiree join up with the Freak Show. Dandy Mott becomes Twisty's protege, and Meep unfairly goes to jail and is murdered.
Halloween is a big night as usual on the show. Jimmy and friends hold a funeral for Meep. Maggie joins Elsa's show posing as a fortune teller. Dandy kidnaps Jimmy and Maggie, but they're able to free Bonnie, Corey, and Michael of Twisty's caged hangout. Elsa summons Edward Mordrake, who visits with a handful of freaks, but decides to kill Twisty and add him to his own group of freaks.
Shortly after that, Elsa sells Bet and Dot to Dandy, but tells everyone that they ran away. Luckily, Jimmy shows up and frees them from the Mott Manor. Dell is blackmailed by Stanley and forced to help kill one of the freaks. Amazon Eve kicks Dell's ass, but then he goes and kills poor Ma Petite for a damn museum exhibit. Elsa kills Ethel with a knife to the eye, but she covers it up with the help of Stanley. Then Jimmy is framed for Dandy's Tupperware Party massacre.
By 1953, tragedy strikes again. Pepper's husband, Salty, dies in his sleep. Stanley decapitates him and sends his head to the museum. Elsa sends Pepper back to Massachusetts with her sister. We all know how that ends.
Play with me. Pepper, leave the lady alone.
Oh, it's fine.
Dell confesses to the murder of Ma Petite, and Elsa shoots him in the head. Maggie outs Stanley as the horrible con man that he is, and the freaks team up and murder him. Massimo makes a pair of prosthetics for Jimmy after he donated his hands to the museum. Elsa then sells Dandy the Freak Show for a cool $10,000. She leaves for Hollywood. The remaining freaks quit the show, which enrages Dandy. He kills everyone except Desiree. Jimmy teams up with Desiree and the twins to drug Dandy, and they lock him inside a Chinese water torture cell. Dandy slowly drowns to death. Thank God.
Heck of a show. That boy is a star.
Since there are no more surviving Mott family members, the Roanoke house is put up for sale in North Carolina. By 1960, Elsa receives a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Meanwhile, Bet and Dot are pregnant with Jimmy's baby. A copy of Elsa's snuff film surfaces and she agrees to perform a Halloween special. Again, she summons Edward Mordrake, who sends her to the Freak Show Afterlife, where she reunites with all of her friends.
The Catholic Church purchases Briarcliff Manor, converting it into an asylum for the criminally insane. Monsignor Timothy Howard agrees to let Arthur Arden perform experiments on the patients. That same year, Pepper is framed for the murder of her nephew and is admitted to the asylum.
On Halloween night, big-time Jetsons fan Miriam Mead dresses up as Rosie the Robot and goes trick-or-treating. Talk about some foreshadowing. 1963, Lee Emerson is committed to Briarcliff after murdering 18 innocent people while dressed up as Santa Claus. 1964, Kit Walker is wrongly convicted of the Bloody Face murders and sent to Briarcliff. He was actually just visited by some aliens who took his wife Alma.
A nosy Lana Winters is committed to the asylum after digging up too much dirt. She's subsequently exposed to intense electroshock therapy. The possessed Jed Potter undergoes an exorcism at Briarcliff, but this ends up killing the poor kid, and the demon transfers over to Sister Mary Eunice. That's some bad news for the asylum.
Dr. Thredson breaks Lana out of Briarcliff, but it turns out he's actually the real Bloody Face. She manages to escape, but then gets into a car accident and ends up back in the asylum in one of the worst bits of bad luck in TV history. Sister Jude is stripped of her duties and committed to the asylum after she's framed for the murder of Frank. She too undergoes some painful therapy. 1965, the possessed Sister Mary Eunice is thrown from the top of the stairs by Monsignor Howard. After a kiss from the Angel of Death, Mary and the demon pass on. Arthur Arden decides to burn himself alive as well when he realizes Mary Eunice is dead.
Aw, isn't that romantic?
Bye.
I hate him.
Lana exposes Thredson as Bloody Face and kills him at his home. She would later give birth to his son Johnny Morgan and put him up for adoption. The Catholic Church then sold the Briarcliff Manor to the state of Massachusetts. In '67, Alma Walker breaks up the seemingly happy Walker home by killing Grace. She's still shaken up by the aliens. Kit commits Alma to the asylum. In 1967, Valerie Solanas publishes the Scum Manifesto, relocates to San Francisco, and founds the cult, the Society for Cutting Up Men.
In 1968, 2 nurses are killed in the R. Franklin murders at the murder house. On June 3rd, Valerie Solanas tries to shoot and kill Andy Warhol. Fortunately, she fails, and Scum attempts to take credit for the Zodiac killings.
In 1969, Lana Winters publishes her best-selling book chronicling her fight for survival against Bloodyface. On August 9th, Charles Manson orders his followers to terrorize the home of director Roman Polanski. Helter Skelter would take the lives of a handful of innocent people, including Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate. In the spring of 1970, Kit Walker frees Judy Martin from Briarcliff. She would live with his family for a few months prior to her passing. In 1971, Briarcliff Manor is finally shut down and abandoned. Timothy Howard, now a cardinal, kills himself.
One late night in Miss Robishaw's academy, Fiona Good slits the throat of Anna Leigh Layton. She would soon take over as the next Supreme. 1972, Constance ends her acting career after giving birth to a baby girl, Adelaide Langdon.
In 1973, a new family moves into the Roanoke house, the Chen family. Unsurprisingly, they are soon killed by the butcher. In 1977, Constance has another child. Tate Langdon is born. That same year, Ramona Royale dreams of becoming a Hollywood star and meets with the Countess in LA. She turns Ramona into a vampire, and the two become lovers.
By 1978, the murder house is completely abandoned, except of course for the spirits that are forever imprisoned there. One of them, the Infantata, kills twin brothers Troy and Brian.
In 1980, Kit Walker is diagnosed with cancer, but he's visited one last time by the extraterrestrials. In 1983, Constance murders her husband Hugo and the maid Moira O'Hara after finding out about their affair. 1984, Nick Pryor checks into Hotel Cortez and meets with the Countess, who helps her transform into Liz Taylor.
You dress like a man, walk like a man, but you smell like a woman.
Liz takes a job as the bartender in the Blue Parrot Lounge at the hotel.
In 1988, the butcher murders Miranda and Bridget Jane after they move into the Roanoke house.
Halloween night of that year, Miriam Mead notches kill number 1 as a Mossad agent. In 1989, Hayden McLean is born.
In 1991, Hank Fox goes on his first witch hunt with his father.
By 1993, Larry Harvey and his family move into the murder house. He starts an affair with Constance Langdon, but Larry's wife Lorraine finds out about it.
She sets the place on fire, killing herself and their 2 daughters. Next, Constance, Tate, Bo, and Addie move back into the murder house.
That same year, Sally McKenna writes music for Nick Harley and Tina Black. Then they all do a bunch of drugs, and Sally sews them all together.
What?
Nick and Tina overdose, so she's stuck to their dead corpses for 5 days.
What?
That's when the addiction demon is created. He has wax-like skin and attacks people with a drill bit dildo.
Who the hell thinks of these things?
1994, in the murder house, Constance motivates Larry to kill Beauregard. Tate then sets fire to Larry at his office and massacres 15 students at his high school. The SWAT team kills Tate in the murder house.
In 1994, Sally becomes a spirit of the Hotel Cortez after being murdered by Donovan's mother, Iris. On October 11, 1997, Elias Cunningham filmed video about the history of the Roanoke house.
Let's skip ahead to 2007. The voodoo queen Marie Laveau hires a witch hunter, Hank Fox, who's actually married to a witch, Cordelia. In 2010, the new murder house homeowners Chad and Patrick are killed by Tate Langdon in the Rubberman outfit.
LAPD homicide detective John Lowe investigates the trial of murders that led him to the Hotel Cortez. He soon meets James Marsh, who convinces John to finish his 10 Commandments killings.
In 2011, the Harmon family hires the worst realtor in history and chooses the murder house as their new home. Vivian soon gets pregnant with twin babies, one of which is Ben's and the other Tate Langdon's, who was posing as Ben in the Rubberman outfit. On Halloween night, Addie dies in a hit-and-run accident. Constance tries to move her body onto the murder house property, but fails.
Violet Harmon overdoses on pills after finding out the truth about Tate.
In 2012, Vivian gives birth to Michael Langdon in a horrifically violent labor that takes her own life and Ben's child. Constance takes her grandson Michael to raise as her own. That same year, Cordelia takes in Queenie after hearing a news report about her powers.
Oliver Thredson and Lana Winter's son, Johnny Morgan, assumes the identity of Bloodyface. He murders a whole bunch of people, including some unfortunate honeymooners, some Bloodyface copycats, his therapist, and a prostitute. Johnny finally confronts his mom, who ends up shooting and killing him.
By the end of 2012, the dead Harmon celebrate a relatively happy Christmas together. I guess as happy as you could be if you're dead, but Tate and Hayden aren't welcome.
In 2013, Misty Day is burned alive by some religious extremists after she's seen bringing a bird back to life. Zoe Benson accidentally kills her boyfriend during sex and is sent to Miss Robishaw's academy. Madison Montgomery is raped at a frat party. She uses her powers to flip their bus, killing nearly all of them, and Zoe finishes off one of them in the hospital.
Fiona digs up Delphine LaLaurie, Misty Day resurrects herself, and Madison and Zoe bring zombie Kyle back to life. Fiona eventually becomes threatened by Madison and accidentally, yeah right, kills her in front of Spaulding. It's eerily similar to how she killed Anna Lee Layton. Cordelia is blinded after an acid attack while enjoying a drink at a New Orleans bar. Good news though, she gained the power of the sight. Myrtle is framed for the acid attack and burned at the stake. Thankfully, Misty finds her and brings her back to life.
Zoe, Queenie, and Nan accidentally summon the Axeman. Madison is resurrected by Misty and Zoe.
And Cordelia realizes that Fiona killed Madison. Myrtle kills Quentin and Pembroke and restores Cordelia's eyesight with their eyes. Then Queenie kills Hank during his shooting rampage.
2014, Fiona and Marie kill Nan. They have a funeral for her. Then Fiona, Marie, and the Axemen kill the secret witch hunter organization.
Queenie then kills Delphine, and the Coven teams up to kill the Axemen. Then they hold the test of the 7 wonders. Everyone dies during the trials except for Madison, who is strangled to death by Kyle. Cordelia passes all the tests and brings Zoe back to life, making her the new Supreme. She then opens up the academy and welcomes in young ladies from around the world. Myrtle is burned at the stake on her own wishes, and Fiona dies in her daughter's arms.
I don't think we ever hugged.
Around this time, the Warlocks moved the Hawthorne School for Exceptional Young Men into an underground bunker to keep it hidden from the public. Elsewhere, Kai and Vincent Anderson's parents are killed in a murder-suicide. The brothers keep their bodies locked up in their bedroom.
What about a proper burial?
They didn't even tell their sister.
They're definitely the worst.
Matt and Shelby Miller move into the Roanoke house, but they're soon attacked by the spirits. Thanks to Lee and Elias, they survive the attack and move out. Elias isn't so lucky. In the summer of 2015, My Roanoke Nightmare starts production. It's a documentary reenactment of the Roanoke incident and becomes a critically acclaimed TV hit.
That same year, Kai and Winter visit the Judgment House run by Pastor Charles. They free all the captives and kill the twisted pastor.
Hotel Cortez is bought by fashion designer Will Drake. Drake will soon marry the Countess. Marcy, yes, that Marcy, brokers the deal. Queenie checks into the hotel after magically winning some tickets to The Price is Right. Thanks, Cordelia. Unfortunately, she's attacked by Ramona and then killed by March. Queenie is trapped in the hotel for a few years. The Countess tries to leave the hotel but is shot and killed by John for his final kill. Thou shalt not commit murder. He puts the Countess's head on a trophy. The ghost of the Countess reveals to March that she didn't turn him into the police. It was actually Hazel. March banishes her, and the Countess is stuck with March for eternity.
A young Michael Langdon starts to kill first small animals and then people. He grows an entire decade overnight. Constance can no longer raise him. She commits suicide in the murder house, joining her children. Ben Harmon tries to help Michael, but Tate rejects him as pure evil.
Not even I could create something as monstrous, as evil as you. You stay away from me.
Michael lashes out and kills the new homeowners.
Miriam Meade and the Satanists make a visit, and after the satanic ceremony, Michael proclaims Satan as his father. Vivian tries to kill Michael, but fails. He almost kills her, but is saved by Tate. Against her wishes, Myrtle Snow is resurrected by Cordelia. Cordelia attempts to save Queenie from Hotel Cortez, but she fails. Apparently, she's not strong enough.
In October 2016, the Roanoke TV sequel, Return to Roanoke, begins filming. During the Blood Moon. Really smart, guys. Rory Monahan is killed by the Jane Ghost while Sydney and crew are murdered by Agnes. Lee, Monet, and Audrey are captured by the Polk family. They start cutting off small pieces of Lee's flesh and feed it to Audrey and Monet.
Luckily, they trick and kill Jethro Polk. Lee escapes and frees Audrey. She then kills Mama Polk. Meanwhile, Matt is seduced by Scathach and he comes clean that he returned to the house for the witch.
I am in love with her, Shelby. She's the reason I came back.
That sends Shelby into a violent rage and she murders Matt. Agnes returns with the mob, but then actual members of the Roanoke colony appear. She's butchered by Thomas and White. Shelby commits suicide with the butcher's knife, which is pretty fitting. Lee and Audrey return and blame the murders on Dominic, so they lock him outside the bedroom. Piggy Man slaughters him. The next day of filming, a blogger gets his throat slit. Monet is impaled by a wooden shaft, Dylan is disemboweled, and more bloggers are slaughtered. What will it take to end production on this show? Jesus. Finally, the next day, Audrey is shot by the police after attempting to kill Lee. In November of 2016, Donald Trump is elected as the new president of the United States. This triggers Allie.
Kai meets with BB Babbitt, who encourages his extremism. He soon recruits Gary, Harrison, and Meadow. Serena Belinda is murdered on camera during a news report.
In 2017, Michael is arrested for killing a butcher, but the warlock Ariel frees him. His powers are tested by the warlocks at the Hawthorne School, who believe he is the Alpha, the only one to help overpower the Coven and their supreme Cordelia. During a meeting with the Coven, Michael travels to Hotel Cortez and brings Queenie back from the dead. He then travels to Madison's retail hell and brings her back. Michael returns to the school with both of the witches, much to Cordelia's shock.
While unconscious, Cordelia has a vision of the apocalyptic future ruled over by Satan. Michael Langdon is put through the 7 wonders and passes them. He even brings Misty Day back from hell.
Cordelia sends Madison and Behold to get more info about Michael. They visit the murder house and find out that he's pure evil. He's the literal Antichrist. They leave the murder house in peace, helping Violet reunite with Tate and Vivian with Ben.
The Coven believes it has found the next Supreme. Mallory demonstrates vast powers they have never seen, bringing life back from the dead and restoring youth. She takes the 7 wonders test and passes all of them, including bringing Moore back from the dead, who tells everyone that he was murdered.
Ariel, Baldwin, and Meade are then burned at the stake. Michael comes across their bodies and vows revenge on the entire Coven. He stumbles into the Church of Satan and is quickly worshipped as the son of Satan. He meets with the billionaire owners of Caneros Robotics, Jeff and Mutt. They build him a Robo-Ms. Meade with a gun for an arm.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
By February 2017, Allie's fears are intensified. She's attacked by a group of clowns during a late-night market run. Kai runs for the vacant seat on the city council. The Changs are murdered by the cult and the Wiltons move in. Not suspicious at all. Allie accidentally shoots her employee, Pedro.
Bob Thompson is killed by the cult, as well as RJ, the poor cameraman. Sally wants to run against Kai, but is murdered before she can do so. In April, during one of Kai's rallies, Meadow opens fire on innocent people. She shoots Kai and murders others before committing suicide. Allie is arrested for the shooting. Kai wins the election and becomes the new city councilman. Ivy kills Harrison, Winter kills Detective Samuels, and Kai kills his brother Vincent. Allie actually joins Kai's cult, and then she poisons Ivy during dinner.
Allie then finds out that Kai isn't Oz's biological father. Kai strangles his sister Winter after he believes she betrayed him. Kai plans the Night of 1,000 Tales, but the FBI arrests Kai and kills many of his followers.
November of 2017, the Lana Winters special airs on live TV. Winters comes out of retirement to interview Lee Harris, the lone survivor of Return to Roanoke. Lot Polk barges into the interview and tries to kill Lee, but is shot down by the police.
Time's up, Lee.
Later that month, more people decide to film in the Roanoke house. Unsurprisingly, they're all killed. When will anyone learn?
On November 19th, Lee kills herself and the Roanoke house bursts into flames. Thank God that house is gone. In 2018, Kai escapes prison and attacks Allie at her own political rally. He's shot in the head by Beverly Hope. November 6th, Allie wins the Michigan Democratic seat for state senator, and it's revealed that she's leading the newly reformed Scum. That same year, Michael plots with Dina to take down the Coven. He ends up giving her a talk show. Michael and Meade are able to get inside the academy and they kill Bubbles, Zoe, Queenie, and others. Cordelia, Myrtle, Madison, Mallory, and Coco are able to escape. Michael soon learns about the Cooperative, who are made up of Satan worshippers. They control the entire nuclear arsenal of the world.
All you need for Armageddon, bro, are 3 people in the right places pushing the right buttons.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
The Coven is running out of time. Only option is Tempus Infinitum. Mallory attempts to travel back in time. Cordelia and Myrtle find all the warlocks and their students dead at the Hawthorne School. Jeff and Mutt give Miss Venable an outpost to be in charge of and make her own rules. Michael and Meade meet with the cooperative and build out bunker outposts for the select survivors. They then put identity spells on Coco and Mallory and force Jeff and Mutt to leave 4 spots open in one of the outposts.
In April of 2020, a nuclear apocalypse destroys the Earth. Brock gets stuck in Santa Monica traffic. Timothy and Emily are taken in by the cooperative due to their superior DNA. Shouts to 23andMe. The remaining survivors are shuffled into Outpost 3, where Venable and Meade run a tight ship. They also serve stew that's made out of stew.
Oh, the stew is stew!
Mallory, come here and stick your finger down my throat!
A year and a half after the apocalypse, Michael Langdon shows up at Outpost 3. He's looking for people to bring to the sanctuary. He's lying. Timothy and Emily fall for each other even though they're breaking the rules. Langdon interviews all of the subjects, then comes face to face with Mallory and her secret powers.
Cordelia, Myrtle, and Madison pop out of that restorative Louisiana soil and head to Outpost 3. Meade catches Timothy and Emily having sex and decides to execute them. But Tim fights back and shoots Meade. That's when we find out that she's a robot. Halloween night, Venable and Meade plan to kill everyone in the bunker by using apples laced with snake venom. Creative. Brock actually survived that Santa Monica traffic, as well as the apocalypse, and he shows up and kills Coco. The apples take the lives of nearly everyone.
Venable and Meade try to kill Michael, but he forces Meade to turn on Venable and kill her. Meade swears allegiance once again to Michael.
Cordelia, Myrtle, and Madison arrive at Outpost 3.
Find our sisters.
Cordelia resurrects Dina, Coco, and Mallory. Everyone but Dina is cool with the plan to stop Michael. Unfortunately for Dina, Cordelia made a deal with Papa Legba for her soul. That allowed Marie Laveau to return and help in the fight. Marie quickly takes out Dina with a machete, sending her straight to hell. Cordelia makes Robo-Meade's head explode, and Madison uses her arm gun to shoot down Michael. Cordelia, Myrtle, and Mallory rush to find the closest bathtub to perform Tempus Infinitum. But Brock ruins the party and stabs Mallory. Michael revives himself and blows off Madison's head. He then pulls Marie's heart out of her chest and snaps Coco's neck. Michael is strong as f***.
Mallory is too weak to perform the spell until Cordelia sacrifices herself to give rise to Mallory as the new Supreme. Mallory awakens to perform Tempus Infinitum, and thus traveling all the way back to 2015.
Skip forward to 2022, and on Devil's Night, Billy Dean Howard interviews the ghost of John Lowe, who subsequently scares the living shit out of her. John's daughter Scarlett comes to visit, and Elizabeth finds a handsome stranger at the hotel bar.
You have a jawline for days.
So that's the original AHS timeline, but Mallory's time travel changed a few things.
Mallory's first attempt at time travel brought her back to 1918 in hopes to save Anastasia and her family. Unfortunately, she wasn't yet a strong enough witch to stop the massacre.
Then she traveled back to 2015. We see Constance fed up with Michael's evil and kick him out of the house. As he runs outside, he's run over by Mallory in a Range Rover. Constance decides to leave his body there to die, and the apocalypse doesn't happen.
Mallory then convinces Queenie to cancel her reservations at Hotel Cortez. Papa Legba releases Misty Day from hell and she reunites with Cordelia.
Now in this timeline we move to 2020. Emily is protesting a local coffee shop and she accidentally runs into Timothy. Sparks ensue. Emily and Timothy get together and they have a son, Devin. I think you know where this is headed. Devin kills his babysitter and the family gets a knock at the door. It looks like the Satanists have found their new Antichrist.
We've been waiting our whole lives for this. We're here to help.
That's right, the apocalypse is gonna happen again.
Hooray.
We're screwed.
Yeah. Let us know your favorite AHS moment in the comment section down below, and we will be back very, very soon for season 9.
Do you think we can get some aliens again?
I'm off the aliens thing now. I don't want
aliens in season 9? Nah. What do you guys think?